passed the test of the most multiracial, multi-religious, multicultural, multinational country in the history of the world. And to say otherwise is to smear the greatest experiment in human diversity that has ever been engaged in. To my fellow Americans who are Black Americans, this man represents such an infinitesimally small segment of the white population that it is important that you know that. It was as if those people in that supermarket were struck by lightning. These things are exceedingly rare in the United States. Okay? That's what a decent man, he's a thug.
There's Dennis Prager. He was either struck by lightning or thinks that speaking at that pace will allow him to be seen as more serious, or maybe his ridiculous points being taken as serious by the very people that he's speaking to that maybe experience these types of things or have had their families go through it. So apparently that terrorist up in Buffalo shooting up that grocery store is like lightning striking because there's an infinitesimally small degree of these folks within the white community. Tell that to those 10 folks' families who lost their loved ones, because, and also maybe tell the facts, because let's jump down to graphic 2, you guys, because far right terror is not every time you get struck by lightning type of issue. And by the way, if your family gets struck by lightning, you know what we do? We have mitigation measures. If lightning is coming, we do something about making sure we're not struck by it. Maybe we should do that when it comes to white terror attacks. Okay, let's get to the details. So in the 20 years since 9/11, far right extremists killed more people in the US than did American-based Islamist fundamentalists. But that's often hard to discern from the way the federal government has treated domestic terrorism. Earlier this year, an intelligence report warned that racially motivated extremists pose the most lethal domestic terrorism threat. It said the menace was now more serious than potential attacks from overseas, and the White House published a strategy for countering the problem. The FBI director, Christopher Wray, told Congress that the January 6th insurrection wasn't an isolated event, and that, quote, the problem of domestic terrorism has been metastasizing across the country for a number of years. The New America think tank in Washington, D.C. has analyzed the 251 killings it defined as perpetrated by US domestic terrorists since the 9/11 catastrophe. Its report concluded that far-right extremists killed 114 people, spanning more than 3 dozen violent attacks, while US-based individuals it terms jihadists killed 107 people across 14 attacks. So we've got the issue of domestic terrorism. We obviously and infamously heard about Donald Trump and his administration completely ignoring it as it went by, and in fact supporting it, saying there's good people involved with those terror attacks. But now, as we keep seeing it happen, we see manifestos that point out exactly the types of things that people like this guy believed and carried out and thought about, premeditated, and looked to carry out further down the street if he got away with it past this point. But Dennis Prager wants to tell us, Rick, that it was being struck by lightning. Hey, my fellow Black Americans out there. This guy was just a thug. That's supposed to make us then go, oh yeah, he called a white guy a thug. Everything is great now. You're right, Dennis. You're right.
1000%. I'm actually gonna go in a slightly different direction with the lightning stuff. Knowing how the right uses dog whistles to signal to their loyal conservative followers, listeners, viewers, etc. Judging off of what we saw with the Trump administration, I actually think this was another signal, because as we have seen, mainly with Stephen Miller and the 45th president, lightning bolts are symbology to Nazi symbology. So I actually don't think that he was talking about regular lightning, because we know where they stand on so many things, like
just hidden messages in his meandering slow statement.
That's how I feel about it, because everything they've done has been like a hidden message that sparks some sort of response from their alt-right followers. So that's how I feel about it. I think it was intentional, but hypothetically, if it wasn't, we were to play into this example, as you said, if lightning happens, it's kind of at random. This is preventable. This is saying we could literally take the lightning strike in this form, a gun, out of, if we really tried, America. That would be a preventable measure. But Dennis Prager is also, aside from literally putting me to sleep, is a blowhard. Some of the things that he has said are police are not racist against black people. This is all via Mother Jones. Man-made climate change is not for certain. He is anti-animal rights. The gender wage gap doesn't exist. Tell that to the United States Women's National Team. The South being Republican has nothing to do with race, of course not. There's a war on Christmas. He co-signed Roy Moore. He says Western media outlets pose a greater threat than the country of Russia. And he hosted Sebastian Gorka. And you know who else he hosted and got the co-sign from? Michelle Tafoya. So with everything that we have listed with this guy, obviously, Cenk says it a lot, and I do second it, that our audience is smart enough to read between the lines and say, oh yeah, this guy's a fraud, he's an idiot. But he's intentionally an idiot. And with his thoughts of like, this is an isolated thing, tell that to Heather Heyer. Tell that to Charlottesville. Tell that to Tulsa. Tell that to Rosewood. Tell that to Buffalo. In the last 10 years, the Anti-Defamation League has found that 75% of murders in the country are from right-wing extremists. This is not isolated. It is an ongoing problem that continues to fester.
Yep, and now we got dark MAGA. It's all connected. It's just the way these things work.